Good morning, Let's Write writers, on this lovely sunny day. Today I'm going to be talking about poetry for performance as opposed to poetry for the page. So what can I tell you about writing poetry for performance? I can tell you how it works for me, and perhaps this might give you some tips. I never started out as a performance poet. I wrote poems entirely for the page. And in the very beginning, when I started writing poems, they were only for me. At some point, I felt ready to share my poetry and found a publisher who wanted to publish them, and that was great. But with this came book launches, where some kind of sharing was quite naturally expected. As an actor, I wanted to do more than read my poetry. I wanted to perform it, especially as at that time, the poetry was very personal to me about some very personal experiences that I'd felt it was time to share, so I wanted to perform it. That'll be fine, I thought. I'm an actor, I can just perform them. I found that apart from one or two happy accidents, this didn't quite work for me. I could read them with feeling and emotion, but somehow my poems, written for the page, written to be read, didn't translate into performance pieces for me. But I'm a performer. I wanted to perform them. And then, from going to a whole range of different kinds of poetry nights and events, readings, performances, all sorts of different kinds, it dawned on me. For me, at least, performance poetry is a very different animal to poetry on the page. So I began to write differently too, with a different mindset, depending on whether I was writing for the page or writing for the stage. Here's a couple of examples. This poem, called Discernment, was written for the page. It was written for my book, Rescued, which was about some of my experiences having been very severely bullied at work. And it was not written to be performed, so I'll just read it to you now. Discernment. I spent a good many years of my young adult life believing that I had formed relationships, friendships, trust. In a few short months, this belief was shown up to be what it truly was, an illusion, a delusion, and I thought that that was the way the world must be. So I spent a good many more years believing that there could be no relationships, no friendships, no trust. And then one day, I started to find my real place in the world, where I was able to use the intuition I had always had, but so often ignored, as discernment. And with that gift, I was able to sift out the illusion from the true, the delusion from the genuine. And in this knowledge, I was able to start spending the years that are left forming friendships, relationships, and trust. For me, that doesn't really work as a performance. I've had a lot of people talk to me about this book, Rescued, and my book, Marooned, which are about my experiences, and have said that they find it very moving, but they've read the book. On the occasions I performed the poems, they just didn't quite work for me. So I started to work in a different way. I created a character to do some of my poems, more sort of comedy poems with a bit of social awareness. Kimmy Suan, who's a street poet. I won't do the accent and the voice because it doesn't quite fit with my look, but I'll read you one of the poems from my book. The Conversations, not Conversations, that's a different book. The Thoughts of Kimmy Suan. It's called Spit. It's about homelessness. I was out the other day just walking through the town when I come across a homeless man just sitting on the ground. I thought that I would sit with him and share a cup of tea, a sandwich and a chocolate bar, discuss philosophy. His name was Jack, he told me, but he couldn't drink me tea. I'd put no sugar in it, and while Jack, see, he takes 3. But as we sat there chatting and finished our sandwich crust, a woman in a posh red suit walked past and spat at us. I was shocked and I was angry at this unnecessary crime, but Jack, well, he just shrug and say, it happens all the time. So next time I just go to town to sit with my friend Jack, if some posh woman spits at us, I'm going to spit right back. As I got more confident, I started to decide I'd like to perform as myself rather than just as characters. So that was with comedy and poetry. This is one of the first poems that I performed at both comedy and poetry gigs. It's called Funny Bones. See me? I can't write anything funny or humorous or exploring life's highs. unless I'm pretending to be someone else, hiding behind makeup and costume and gender disguise. Why is that, do you think? Is it the stubborn, depressed pessimist in me who finds smiling and emotional strain and laughing a pain to deplore, a plain time-consuming energy waste of space chore? Or is it that I need to become someone else, to allow humour to show its face, find a place upon my face? As Kimi Suan, queen of the street spoken word, I has plenty of chat. I has witty and sharp and wicked and fat. I can talk funny stuff about hoodies, Mackie D's and babies and all that. And in it that I can get plenty of laughs. Talk about boys with no class or one of a feel of my chav poet ass. Or my depressed alter ego, who is Nicola Goff. I may spend my life looking completely pissed off, but even I raise a smile with my commitment to goth as I offer joy to the world for the best part of a week, melodiously singing my song, dark and bleak, which goes something like this. Please try not to freak. Oh, sing along if you know it. Bleak, 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 dark, 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 bleak, 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 really, really hasn't been my week. Even Dirk from up north can muster a titter with me view of women, a world which is twisted and bitter. A recycled comedian with no jokes to speak of. It's funny to watch the desperation I reek of. But me, well, that's a different matter entirely. All I can write and perform smacks of madness, a pit void of even a fragment of gladness, destined to send audiences home with a lead weight in their stomachs and a chip on their shoulders as the taste of depression singes and smoulders. That's entertainment. Not, I'm sure you'd agree. So why can't I just be funny as me? Ditch Kimmy and Nicola and Dirk and the rest. Bite the bullet, stand up straight, grit my teeth, bare my chest. Open parentheses. Not literally, obviously, because that would give away the secret dependencies I have on my exhibitionist tendencies. Close parentheses. And indulge in a bloodbath of comedy fest. Throw off my pessimist chains, unlock my handcuffed funny bones, put them in gear with my light-hearted brains, as I embrace optimism, happiness, and finally break free. Oh, why? Why, oh, why? Can't I be funny? As me? For me, it was that simple. Write for the page, write for the stage. And that's how it works for me. I feel that writing aloud once it's written is an essential part of the writing process. This is especially true for any performance writing, whether it's poetry, storytelling, playwriting, comedy, whatever. So if you want to start looking at performing your work and don't quite know where to start, perhaps begin by writing that next poem simply with the intention in your mind that this one is meant for the stage, for an audience to hear and see, rather than for a reader to read. What sort of material might suit you as a performer, sharing with an audience, rather than as a writer sharing with a reader? Do you want it to be funny, poignant, endearing, powerful? It could be one, some, or all of these. I write comedy poetry, often in the characters that I create, like Kimi Suan, songs with Nicola Goff the Goth, as well as very dark, often personal poetry, which I more often perform as me, and I make those decisions. I can never decide which is my favourite style. It changes constantly. So I do as well. Once you've written your poem, read it aloud. How does it feel? How does it sound to you? Can you bring more expression, emotion, life to it? Might editing some of the words, playing around with it, might that help? Playing around with the rhythms, the tones, the volume and speed of your voice. Like I say, play around with it. Be expansive, over the top, dramatic, playful. Find your performance voice and personality. Play around with your writing. I can't emphasise that enough. With that specific intention. So maybe start off by setting yourself some time to write 2 versions of a poem, the same poem, but one meant for the page, one for the stage, and see what changes you can or need to make that make the difference. Here's just a quick example to show you what I mean. This is called Legacy, and it was written for the page, and I've tried to adapt it a little bit so it could be performable for me, that works for me. Legacy. The silence of the night broken by unsleeping thoughts, sleepless dreams and high definition haunting the darkness. Seeping through to the light of the day, as a sweet dawn chorus announces that despite the heaviness in your limbs, the aching in your head, the sadness in your heart, you must get up and begin all over again, where the sun reminds you that there is so much to begin all over again for. The warmth on your face, the technicolor of nature, as she too begins all over again and again, in a never-ending repeat of agains. So I tinkered around with it, tweaked it, and this next version I might perform on the stage. Silence of the night. Broken. Unsleeping thoughts. Endless. Sleepless dreams. High definition. Haunt the darkness. Seep through to the very light of the day. Sweet dawn chorus. Sweet dawn chorus. Announcing, chiding, calling. Despite the heaviness in your limbs, in spite of the aching in your head, no respite from the sadness in your heart, you must get up and begin again. And the sun, yes, the sun reminds you too. Begin all over again. The warmth on your face, the technicolor of nature, just as he too begins all over again. Again and again in a never-ending repeat of agains. Silence of the night. Broken. So those are just a couple of examples of how I work. Go to a wide range of poetry nights and experience the differences in style. At the moment we can't, of course, but you'll find plenty of performance poets on YouTube. Compare them, find ones that you really like, find ones that you really don't like and can't engage with as well as ones that you do, in terms of how you might develop your own style. Notice the difference and play, and have fun. If you enjoy sharing and performing your work, your audience will see that and they will too. Anything you'd like to share with me? Writing, posts, videos, post things on here, send to my email, any videos that you make of you performing your poets, I'd be really happy to see, happy to watch, happy to read. And all that's left for me to say is happy writing, happy discovering, happy performing.